Hello students. So the topic for today's lecture is phases in the software development process. I am Kavita Taneja from Department of Computer Science and Applications, Punjab University, Chandigarh. So now whenever we are developing a software, it is found that it comprises of various phases or stages. But it is generally found that the software development follows a cycle. So it is also called as software development life cycle, and this was coined by Jones in 1980 to be defined as series of steps used to manage the phases of development for a software. So whenever a software is being developed, it is undergoing various phases. Each phase is further divided into set of activities, and eventually all these phases form a ring kind of a structure. That means there is a cycle that it can be reverted back from phase last to phase 1. So software development lifecycle model can be defined as a framework that describes the activities performed at each stage of a software development project. So, here we can see that software development life cycle, also written as SDLC, has primarily these phases starting from preliminary investigation, as you can see in the top, then system analysis, that is the second phase of software development, followed by system design. Then we have system development, system implementation, and last but not the least is the system operation and maintenance. So you can just try and remember that these are the steps starting with preliminary investigation. You may also find that in preliminary investigation we also write it feasibility study. Then we have system analysis, which is also known as, at some content you may find it as requirement analysis. Then we have system design, system development, implementation, okay, and then we have operation and maintenance. So these are the prime phases of software development, and we are going to take all these phases step by step. So first is the preliminary investigation. In this phase, first of all, we have to check whether it is practical to develop a system, whether it is feasible. So all these feasibility will be assessed during this phase. Then comes the system analysis phase. In this phase, you study the old system, identify the new requirements, and you define the system, and primarily it is from the user's perspective. Then we have system design, the third one, in which you design either a new or an alternative system and define the system from a technical point of view. So you can see the contrast. The first phase is basically to just have an estimate of whether it is possible, feasible to develop the system or not. Whatever is being proposed by the user, whether it is feasible to be developed. This is the preliminary investigation phase. System analysis is always definition of system from the user's perspective. And when it comes to system design, that definition of system is from the technical view or the technical perspective of the system. Next, we are having system development. Now, of course, whenever a system has to be developed, it has to have some new hardware, some new software requirements are there, and then it is tested also. System installation and training will come under the head of system implementation. System operation and maintenance is a very important phase. Not only it deals with the daily operation of the system, but it is also concerned with the periodic evaluation, and now and then whenever an updation or a newer version is released, it has to be done with the system that has been delivered. So this is again a very important and the last phase. So now let us come directly to the phase 1 and let us find out in detail what all activities it is composed of, what is the objective of this particular phase, and what is the output of this particular phase. Sometimes it can be asked that why system development is called a phased development. Sometimes the question can be asked that why it is called a phased development. So it is called a phased development because every single phase is going to give us a output, and based on that output next phase will proceed its sets of activities. Means the output of previous phase will act as an input for the next phase. So we will see this also while we are doing the SDLC phases one by one. So the first is the preliminary investigation, in which we have to determine if a new system is actually needed or not. So there are three primary tasks. First is that you have to define the problem, and then you have to prepare feasibility report based on some major aspect, like we will talk about whether it's economic feasible or not. Okay, economic feasibility means that whatever budget is allowed for this particular project, whether it is possible to develop this kind of system within this project or not. Then we have technical feasibility. In technical feasibility analysis, alternatives for hardware, software, and general design approach are to be determined, whether they are available, whether they are functional, or they need to be, some necessary technology, either it exists or it has to be developed, whether it is feasible, can the system be expanded, right? So all these kind of concern. And in the operational feasibility, it is basically a measure of finding out that how people are able to work with the system. Is there sufficient support for the project from the management and the users, or have the user been involved in the planning and the development of the project? This is very crucial for the success. Next is the system analysis phase. Now, in system analysis, we do a in-depth study of the existing system to determine that what the new system should do. So, whatever data is gathered, we have to expand that data. Whatever data is gathered in phase 1, we have to expand it, and then we have to filter it out. We will be keeping only the relevant data in the second phase, phase 2, system analysis. So, in this particular phase, in addition to observation and interviews, following things need to be examined. Formal lines of authority, it could be in the form of organizational chart. What are the standard operating procedures? How information flows? And what could be the possible reasons for any inefficiencies? These are to be observed with the help of some interviews in the requirement analysis phase. So, in this particular phase, we have to take care of whatever requirements the user is giving. What would be the goals of the software? What would be the constraints of the software? So, important activities that are involved in this particular phase is completing the requirement analysis and delimiting the problem domain. So, what we are trying to do, we are trying to collect all the requirement, we are trying to make a rough sketch of the components of the target system based on the feasibility study of the planned project. So, we in this phase we also create a rough project schedule, right? So, but yes, it is true, this phase is very tough, and it is always hard to describe and document the requirements in a comprehensive manner, because good requirements, they will save time and money, but good requirements need a lot of experience and methodology to be extracted from the user who may not have any technical knowledge, right? So requirements, not only this point that we are deriving the requirements from a third party, there is one more problem, that requirements always change during the project. So the output of this phase will be SRS, Software Requirement Specification. It's a document, right? And a good SRS will reduce the changes that may come otherwise in the maintenance phase, and it will be very costly to do it at that time. So prototype significantly reduces the changes. So now we will also brief a little bit about what would be the tools that will be used in the system analysis phase. So first is the top-down analysis. You start with the top level components, break down into smaller parts through each successive level. Next is the grid charts to show relationship between input and output, because we have already told you that we have to make a rough sketch of various components, their relationship and so on. Then we will have system flow charts in this particular phase. They will tell us the flow of input data, processing, output, major components, right? And what is the interaction between all these system elements. So these tools will be there. Now, the last slide for this phase is that what is the output of system analysis or requirement analysis phase, which is phase 2 of software development. So I've already discussed this, that it is the SRS. Complete description of current system, its constraints, its goals, scope, everything, and what are the benefits of this particular system, because this is a major thing with which you are going to trade off or bargain with the cost and the time as a software manager. So output of system analysis would be a complete description of all the requirements. We call it SRS, and it majorly include the subject, scope, objectives and the benefits. So now next phase would be system design, right? So in system design, what we do, we are basically dealing with designing the system architecture. Now we have already briefly touched this, saying that analysis is from user perspective, design is from the technical perspective, right? We are defining the system. Now system design is a technical description about how the system will implement the requirements that are penned down in the SRS, which is the product of phase 2. This we have already highlighted that it is called a phased development process because output of previous phase act as an input to the next phase. So SRS is going to be the input for the system design phase, and in system design we have to technically describe how the system is going to implement the requirements penned down in the SRS. So major activity would be designing the system architecture, designing the underlying logical data model, designing the algorithmic structure of system components, and of course validating the architecture and algorithms to realize that what are the individual system components. So system architecture, it describes how the system will be decomposed into subsystem. What would be the modules? What would be the responsibility of each module, interaction between the modules, and what would be the platforms and technologies that will be utilized. Now again, next is that what are the tools that are used. So like in analysis we have talked about various tools. Similarly, here also we will talk about what are the tools used in system design. So first and foremost, when we say that you have to design an algorithm, you need to have diagramming tools, right? When you have to identify major components, you need to have data repository, documentation tools. You need to have, whenever we are designing an architecture, we need to have prototyping tools, test data generators, right? So many tools are available as it is. We call them off-shelf tools, computer-aided software engineering tools. So they are case tools, they are software-based products, and they are designed to help automate the production of information systems. So there are some categories of case tools which are available, and primarily they are there to represent technically the architecture and its major components, their interaction and the documentation. So what is the output of this phase? Because it is going to act as an input for the next phase. This is called SDD. In analysis we have SRS, software requirement specification. In design phase we have software design document. In feasibility, study, we have the feasibility report. Yes or no? On the various parameters, whether it is practical to produce the system or not. Yes or no? Yes. So let us come back to software design document. It is a formal description of the architecture and the design of the system. So what does it contain? It contains the architecture design, some modules, their interaction. Of course, with the help of a diagramming tool, we will prepare these. For each module, there will be process design diagram, there will be data design diagram. And you can see here E/R, these are entity relationship diagram. What are the main components of the system? We call them entity. How they are related? We call it relation. So the diagram is called entity relationship diagram. And we have to design the interfaces also. We call them class diagrams. So these are the outputs, and definitely they are going to act as an input for the next phase. So system design report, it describes the alternatives including the inputs, outputs and the processing, storage and the backup. So we have to recommend top alternative based upon system fit into the organization. What is the possible cost and benefit analysis? Whether whatever cost we have quoted, yes, these are the advantages of the system. Okay, so this is justified. All this justification and any flexibility for the future is recommended in the system design document, which brings us to the next phase, which is system development. So here actually we develop the software. There are two options. Either you purchase some off the shelf software which are already available, or you write a custom software, right? So whatever SDD quoted, all those design specification now need to be developed in the form of a software, right? So program code of the system components need to be prepared. They are the output of this particular phase, right? So in system design, we were trying to design an underlying logical data model. In this particular phase, we are trying to bring up the physical data model as an output, right? So there are two options. You have to do the programming, or you can just buy the available software. You have to acquire the hardware because we are developing the whole system. It includes both. And then you have to test the new system. So you can do module wise testing, unit testing, testing each part of the system, and then you can do a integration testing where we test the system as one unit. Not only this, beside this, we need to have manuals, the documentation part, because the users or the operators can only understand if you are creating some good manuals. So this log of component test and this manuals documentation part, these will come as output of this particular phase, right? And then software verification is what? It checks whether the developed software conforms to the requirement, performed by the software quality assurance engineers. Now there are two approaches. There is a formal review and inspections, right? And there are n number of testings which are available for testing the developed software. But again, this is not saying that, this is not giving any certification that there is absence of defects. We have found that during maintenance phase also defects do come, but it's only a matter of saying that the defect removal should have a very less response time. But definitely we try in this phase that all these defect rates are decreased. Software testing is checking whether the developed software conforms to the requirements. Testing aim to find the defects. Black box, white box testing. We have unit test, integration testing. These are all testing types. Stress test, load test, regression test. So all these testing, they are done by the tester engineers, and they can use automated test tools also to record and execute tests. And then they have to take that logs of component test, store them as an output of this particular phase. Now, testing process also has phases. Like you have to have a test plan. You have to establish a test strategy during requirements as well as design phases. So you have to understand that testing the mutual effect of system components under conditions close to reality. So for that kind of scenarios you have to develop. You have to develop such test cases, test scripts that will assure that the system implementation fulfills the realistic system specification and they are close to reality. And test execution, it's reporting and retesting the defects. Now this brings us to the next phase, system implementation. So not only developing a system is important, it is useful. We have already studied one of the important quality feature of the software is the usability. Software may be very good. If the person who has ordered for that particular software or our target audience is not able to use it effectively, then that software may be very good, but it won't be of much use for the customer. So in implementation phase, most important thing is that we have to train the user. We have to provide proper training, converting the old system to new system and compiling the final documentation. Then only the new system can be evaluated. Now when it comes to converting from old system to new system, the most important thing is what approach we will follow for conversion. First is the direct approach. It is also called plunge and the crash approach. Entire new system completely replaces the entire old system in one step. It may be good for one application, may not be feasible for another application. So we have one more method of conversion, we call it parallel approach, where you keep both the system operated side by side until the new system proves itself. Next is the pilot approach. That means you do not launch the new system for the entire organization, you do it for one branch or one module. So launch the new system for only one group within the business. Once the new system is operating smoothly, implementation goes company wide. Last is the phased or the incremental approach, in which individual parts of new system are gradually phased in over time using either crash or parallel for each piece. So in system implementation, we have highlighted user training is the most crucial pivotal element, because ultimately customer satisfaction is going to come from how ease or how comfortable the customer is in using that particular software. So user training is mostly overlooked sometimes, mostly. But the problem is nowadays it is not that much overlooked. But if it is overlooked, it is definitely going to prove to be very expensive, because then the user is going to send back lot of changes required within the same cost, which is difficult to maintain. So nowadays a lot of work has been done on making the interfaces easier and so that the customer is comfortable, and it can be commenced before the equipment delivery. Even before the delivery of the system, you can start the training part, and outside trainers are also sometimes used. Now this brings us to the last phase, which is operations and maintenance. So sometimes this is one change I've discussed in the previous slide, that maybe the user is not very comfortable in using the software, so he may ask for an interface to be more user friendly. So this is one change. Okay, then there are some changes in the form of correction of new bugs, which come only later on when the program is executed in a particular set of inputs. Right. Then there is some adaptive changes like adjustment for users changing need. There may be some physical repair of the system that is required. So changes to user better techniques when they become available. So this kind of maintenance is called perfective maintenance. So we have evaluation methods also. How we evaluate? Ultimately we have to evaluate after completing all the phases of software development. So the major technique is system audits, where performance is compared to original specifications. Then we have periodic evaluation, where checkups from time to time and modifications are done if it is necessary. So to summarize all this, we have a diagram here which is showing us all the 6 phases of software development, starting from preliminary investigation, then system analysis, system design, system development, system implementation, and in the end system maintenance. So you can see here that when preliminary investigation ends and your feasibility study is approved, then we move to the next phase of software development. We call it system analysis, where we take requirement specification. Once the problem specifications are penned down in the form of software requirement specification, we move down to next phase, system design. Again, in design, we are trying to figure out the architecture basically and the logical data model. Once it is done, we have software design document which contain all the design specifications. Then we move to system development phase. We have the coding done, testing done, and then we have the system implementation phase. You have to convert the system, leading to system maintenance. User training is required here, and finally the evaluation. All the documentation part is very crucial to this particular approach of software development. If any problem is faced in any of the, as shown by blue arrows, you can see if any problem is faced, then we have to go back to the preliminary investigation and we have to restart, right? And we have to make the software work in compliance with the requirements that were specified by the user. So with this, it brings us to the end of this lecture, and as per our routine, we will be taking up some important questions that may help you to prepare for your examination. So first is that why SDLC is called a life cycle. So you have the answer here, that you may have to go back to one of the phases if finally the output is not in compliance with the user requirement. And why it is called phase development? Because after every phase we have a output which is in the form of a document or models or documentation or any other output which is helping us or which is as used as an input to the next phase. So this classical sequential software development life cycle is having how many phases? It is having 6 phases. You start from feasibility study, we go to system analysis, system design, then we have our implementation, testing, and we have the operation and the maintenance. So in the end, I would like to suggest that a question can also come in one of the phases, that you have to discuss what is the goal of system design. It could be system analysis, it could be system development, any of the phases. What is the goal? What are the activities? What is the output produced in each phase? So these three components are important. You should know what is the goal of a particular phase, what are the major activities that are taking place in that particular phase, what are the outputs produced in that particular phase, and what could be the possible tools that are used. Like for analysis, we have talked about few tools. We have list of tools for system design also, so you can just go through those components for preparing this question. And feasibility study can also come as a short note. What is the relevance and what are the various types of feasibility study that are being done? And in the end, I would say I would like to have an open question from all of you, that what do you think that which phase could prove as to be the most costly, and why? And why there is this problem that mostly the user in the end, in the maintenance, answer is the maintenance phase. And the reason is that whenever user is sending requirement and whenever we are delivering the project, there is a gap, and by that time either the requirements change or the environment change as from the user perspective, or there is one more important thing, that the feedback that user has given us 2 years back may prove to be stale at current time when we are delivering the project, right? So when we are training the user, at that time maybe new tools have come up, right? So the whole thing is that this give us this should make you thinking that what should be done to reduce this kind of how can we make this requirement specification more organized, more based on a scientific temperament, and how can we reduce the cost which goes into the maintenance phase. So I think this creates enough curiosity for our next lecture, which is various type of models that are used for software development. So we'll come to this next topic in next presentation, and you will find that by pursuing more innovative models, how we can lead to satisfying this condition that software engineering is asking us, that we should have a scientific approach toward whether it is requirement gathering or training for entire activities composed in SDLC, how we can have a more disciplined and standardized scientific approach with the help of more advanced process models. So that would be topic of our next lecture. With this brings us to the end. Thank you, students. Happy studying.
Okay, students, now we will be having a brief view of various questions that can come for your exams of the topic phases in software development. Now, these are few questions which are there to help you, to give you a direction of that what type of questions can come and how do you have to align your preparation, right? So these are some popular questions which arise, and I would advise you to go back to the PPT, study it once and twice, then try and attempt these questions and get them discussed with your teachers. Okay. So question number 1 says that you have to explain major phases of software development life cycle. So we have already discussed the major phases. Main point is that you could be asked about what are the activities involved in each phase, what are the objectives of each phase, or you may be asked to produce what are the outcomes that are fed as input to the next phase, right? Next question is that you have to highlight the goals of system design phase. Another question is you have to justify that maintenance phase is the most expensive one and what could be the reasons behind it. What are the major activities involved in analysis phase? It could be any phase, okay? You have to prepare all the major activities and goals of all the phases of the software development life cycle. Last but not the least is why SDLC is called a life cycle and why this process is called a phase development process. So thank you and work hard. God bless you.